it's afterwards. And
Yeah.
so I look at things even with what I'm doing even now. That's the only reason I've done what I've done all these many years, and staying away from home, missing being away from my family and missing anniversaries and birthdays, and usually the family things that most people celebrate, and I might be gone, and it's not that I regret it, because I don't regret it. My wife is an amazing woman of God that has supported me all my life and knows my calling in my life, and I've just have an amazing woman, and so
Mm-hmm.
God is good. See, God, he orchestrated all these things in my life, and
Sure.
and to this day I give him just total glory and praise for that kind of thing. Um, and someone was joking, said, Jimmy, you're probably going to be rocking until you're just till you die or something. And I made a statement. I said, if I can't walk, they'll roll me out in a wheelchair, and if I can't hold a mic, I'll have it strapped onto the sidearm. Because listen, remember what the word says, that if we don't do it, the rocks will cry out. Come
Right.
on. Are
Right.
you kidding me? You're going to let a rock outdo you? Give me a break.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
So,
man.
so Jimmy,
Yeah.
going back to the beginning of King James, Steve and
Uh-huh.
I were talking here before the show,
Uh-huh.
that I was a huge White Cross fan, and then when I heard that Rex was coming out with this new band called King James,
Mm-hmm.
with it being Rex meaning King, and then of course Jimmy, James,
Mm-hmm.
you two together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to include Tim Gaines and Robert Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was on the waiting list at the store for them to
Oh.
call me when this thing came in. So we
Oh.
rushed and got it. Talk to us about what that was like for you to be playing with Rex and Tim and Robert at that time.
Well, I tell you, what a blessing it was to meet old Rex. He's an awesome guy, and we've been buddies for a long time. And I met him in Brooklyn, New York, at it was a festival we were doing in New York. Sacred Fire was playing it, and they were playing, and we happened to just be walking behind and bumped into one another. We got to talking, and he had heard us sing because they hadn't played yet, and so we met then and decided, well, let's do something. And then before you know it, he was calling me. He said, all right, man, let's do it. I was like, okay. So as we were beginning to get the lineup together, we were like, well, who's going to do drums and whatever? And I said, well, man, I'll leave Robert a message. Rex goes, really? He said, well, you know what? I'll leave Timmy a message. I said, or, we'll try to do that. But I think what happened was I left Robert a message, went on vacation. I came home and I had like a really long message on my recorder when I got home. I about passed out. I was like, oh my gosh. Because let me tell you this real quick. You guys, this is some good trivia. My wife and
Okay.
my wife and I, we've always had long hair and that kind of thing. And we've done what you call hair shows. Does that make sense? Where you do these really well-known hair stylists. They do your hair, and they have photographers. You walk down like a like a lane, and they're
No
taking.
way.
Oh, yes, man. Of your, it's rock and roll, man. They're playing all this music. You got all these people in these other salons in there. It's just called a hair show. Well, we did this hair show, and the guy that owned the hair show said, "Hey, there's a band playing downtown Atlanta, and they're called Striper Rock and Roll Band. They're like Christian rock." I'm like, "Whoa, really?" And this is back in the early '80s, and we went. And my wife and I, we heard them play, and Robert was playing. He was slinging and twirling and doing all this stuff. And I had a band at the time. I had a drummer that was kind of that way in a way too, but he wasn't Robert Sweet. And I looked at my wife. Now, guys, this is the gospel, man. I looked at my wife. I said, one day I'm going to play in a band with that guy. My wife looked at me like, oh, yeah, right. Okay, Jimmy, it's good to have dreams, brother. and, and lo and behold, when it happened, her and I both went right back to that memory thought. I said, do you remember when I said I was going to play in a band with that guy? Because when he left the voice message, it was so funny. He's funny, man. He goes, "Hey, bro, this is Robert Sweet, man. I got your call, and yeah, man, I'm interested in playing with you guys. Yeah, just give me a call, okay, bro? All right, thanks, man." I was like, "Oh my god!"
That was a perfect impersonation. Just
oh my god! Oh, we became really good brothers, man. Matter of fact, I don't even call him Rob. I call him Bobby, but because you guys are familiar with Robert. But Robert, we turned into great friends, and then we did the record in Wheaton, Illinois, and it's a really nice studio. I think the Sticks hadn't too long recorded out of there, and that record took a little time for us to do, and I felt like I spent my whole summer there in Chicago, and my wife, bless her heart, flew in to see me because I hadn't been home in so long, and then we got offered to do some touring, overseas and that kind of stuff. So it was fun and really good guys. We always had a blast. Good prayer times, we'd have, and our hang time was really awesome. Robert was kind of the star. Well, I don't mean that to sound nonchalant because I mean he was the rock guy. Everybody knew him. I mean, you say Jimi Bennett and they were like, "Who's that?" And but you say Robert Sweet and everybody knows that guy. And so we it was funny. King James would be doing stuff and all the photographers because Robert loves to. He loves to dress up. Okay, I mean but he would come out with this wild clothes on, and hats and it would just jaw drop people, who in the world is this? And so hey, we just kind of like, okay, that's Bobby. Let's roll with it, that's how we met Ian because Timmy wasn't able to go out with us. So my buddy Ian, who played with 38, so he's played with everybody. Outlaws, and I'd done a bunch of recordings with him, and I said, Rex, I got a guy play bass. He's really good, and he's a good brother. And we brought him in, and Rex was just like, oh yeah, this guy will work. So we had fun with Ian Evans, who we wrote the song Mississippi Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Ian was just a phenomenal brother. Once we got done touring, then he went on and he got the gig working with Leonard Skinner after that, and he was with them until he passed away. And we're good friends with his family to this day. I mean, Gay, his wife's her name's Eva Gay, but I never called her Eva. I always called her Gay. But we called Gay, and then we said, Gay, we've written a song about Ian. And
it's one of the standout tracks on that album. And I got to say, there's songs that, for fans, you sing along with, and it's always nice to have songs that you can relate to. And then, a band maybe will come up with a song that's got some real insider message or some real a particular thing you're going, I don't really get that, or that isn't my story. It's a good song, but I can't really sing along with it. And for some reason, Smoke on the Water is one of those that was a very particular story to the band, but for some reason, we can all sing along with it. It just works. And Mississippi Kid is in that same vein for me.
Oh, that's great.
It's not my story. I don't know him personally, but it's one of those songs I can just sing full-throated in the car as I'm driving down the road, and it is killer. I got to ask you a question, though, on your vocals.
Uh-huh.
How do you explain an album like The Fall? Here's where I'm coming at. Your vocal style is so wonderful. It's just, you do such different things. I think about some of the Sacred Fire. I think about the sound, what you're doing with your voice there. I've already touched on the blues rock stuff of some of King James. And then you've got The Fall. And it is just such a different style. And it still works. That's a piece of it. It still works. To me, that is a powerful album. Totally different style. How did you pull that off as a vocalist?
Well, it was hard for me, but if I might say this, and well, the Lord knows my heart, I was angry. when I did that record. And you might could maybe sense it somewhat. My wife had no idea. I flew to Chicago. We recorded up in Rex's studio, and I was gone for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. And when Ro heard it, she's like, "Jimmy, I don't like it." I was like, "Why?" She said, "Your voice is too pretty. Why did you do that?" And I went, she says, "It sounded like you were chewing on glass and gargling with it." I was like, "Really?" Okay, cool. Oh my gosh, it was just funny. I got so tickled. But I'm not really. I tried to use some different tonalities with that record. And do you know I like it? Do you know I like that record myself? The thing that saddened me more than anything is whenever we'd go out and do a run, we never included any of those songs, and I wanted to so bad. I tried to include a few of those songs, but it just didn't it didn't work out for us to be able to do that. But I'm proud of that record. I no regrets with it. The only regret is not playing out live with it. We just never got an opportunity to take it out, and it would work today. You could take it out. You could take it out and throw it down, and people would just be like, "Oh yeah, this is it."
I put that in the category of face melting metal.
Yeah,
it is aggressive, and again, the style. You mentioned maybe some feeling, some anger, and so forth, but it all works. The lyrics, and the music work they complement each other very well. It's an in-your-face album, man. I love it.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you do, and I'll make sure I tell my wife. I have a few. At least I have one fan. One fan of that old record, anyway.
Yeah, and Jimmy, I like it. I like it as well. And one of the things that Steve and I were talking about is what we have noticed with the musicians that we've talked to from the classic Christian rock era. We're talking 70s, 80s, 90s. There was a lot of versatility that the musicians had. We were talking about the 90s introduced that grunge style.
Right.
And so that's what everybody had to compete with. And I think it's amazing to me to hear like you being able to do what you did with Viktor, and then hearing what you did with King James, and then throwing the Fall in the mix really shows that you have a lot of versatility with your voice. And that's something that we really appreciate. Well, Jimmy, this has been great. And one of the things that Steve and I have said since we've started this show and the guests we've had on, we could literally sit for hours and just talk. And there's no question. And I'm sure Steve could concur with this. So I could just sit back and listen to you forever. The stories and the history that you have is incredible. Steve, did you have anything else for Jimmy before we wind down here?
Yeah, I probably got enough for a second part podcast.
Oh my Lord,
Jimmy,
I'm
we're gonna
sorry.
have to have you back, brother.
No, please do. It's an honor to share the good things of God, and listen, man. When you can brag on Jesus, man, I mean, I'll brag on Him 24/7, and so I appreciate the opportunity to share some things, and it's only the tip of iceberg, man, because I got to tell y'all one other little funny thing, and because you'll laugh. This is a funny one. In the early days with Sacred Fire, before we really got to touring real heavy, where we had to give up our day gig, I worked at a little music store here in Atlanta called American Music. And the guy that ran it, his name was Bruce Barr, and a good Christian brother. He's gone on to be with the Lord now. But we were in there, and my responsibility was to make sure the aisles did not have stuff in it, and to stack drums and cases and blah blah. It was simple stuff, but it was a job. I could do and come and go kind of as I wanted. Well, artists come into the